Scooby Doo Mystery for the Super Nintendo. When I decided to write about and review games for Gametrog, I was excited because now it gave me an even better reason to play some games that I'd never gotten around to trying. One of those games on my Nintendo stack was Scooby Doo Mystery for the Super Nintendo. I like Scooby Doo. I'm not a crazy fan, but a few seconds I had checked out of the game in the past, it looked pretty good. My initial thoughts were that it would be like an old LucasArts style graphic adventure, like Day of the Tentacle or Monkey Island. Turns out I was wrong, but let's get into it and see exactly why. In Scooby Doo Mystery for the Super Nintendo, Shaggy, Scooby, and the gang have to solve 4 mysteries. You take control of Shaggy with Scooby in tow, and you set about looking for clues. The other members of the gang, Fred, Velma, and Daphne, are along for the ride and will help you out in various ways. The 4 scenarios will have you visiting familiar Scooby locations. You start out on the Ghost Ship, then visit the Fun Fair, the Spooky Swamp, and finally the haunted Bradshaw Manor. So, each of the 4 episodes starts the same way. The van is driving down the road and the gang are inside discussing the upcoming mystery. You never get to meet anyone involved with the mystery. Word bubbles pop up from the van that will name someone, but you never get to see from them or hear from them. Once the van stops, the game switches immediately to the gang standing in the first scene. So you never meet Old Man Jenkins or whoever the final villain will end up being. So what good is a monster reveal when you never get to meet the guy or know who the person is anyway? Pretty soon the monster will pop up on the screen and warn the gang to leave. Then he'll quickly pop away in a puff of smoke. Fred normally tells Shaggy and Scooby to get busy looking for clues, and the game begins. So your job is to find clues and bring them to Velma, and with each clue she will reveal more about the mystery. At some point she'll find out enough to open up a new area of the map, or she'll tell you to take something you found to Fred, who will then open up a new area of the map. And Daphne, she just hangs around and gives Scooby snacks every now and then. Scooby snacks will reduce your damage meter. So the map for each episode is made up of several side-scrolling areas or rooms. You walk left and right, and the area can be several screens wide. There are doors or passages either in the back or the front of the screen that you can push up or down on, and it will take you to a new screen. Sometimes a clue is needed to actually open up one of these sections, and you often need to travel back through areas you've already been. Now, finding clues in the game. So the clues are laying right on the ground. The first one you need will most likely be on the screen that you start on. Once you pick it up, you take it to Velma. She'll tell you what it is, and then she'll remove it from your inventory. The problem here is that the clues are laying right out on the path. There is no looking for them. You'll often be told that you just need item X to do something. You walk to the next screen, and item X is right there on the ground. This happens over and over. You don't even need to know what you're looking for or what you need. Just walk through each scene, pick up the 3 or 4 items that are on the ground. You can even wait to bring them all to Velma at once. And that's it. It's basically a walking and picking things up simulator. There are a couple clues that are hidden better, and you have to use Scooby's nose to find them. If you hold down the Y button and walk, Scooby will put his nose to the ground and sniff for clues. Once you're in the right area, a clue will pop out of the ground. It seemed neat at first, but then it becomes a chore. Like on the first level, there's actually a sign that says, "Sniff here." There's a couple times that Fred will say, "There's got to be a clue buried around here somewhere," as a hint for you to sniff around, and normally it's a couple feet away from him. Then there are a few that you get no information on. You'll end up walking the length of every screen on every level in a very slow sniff mode just to make sure you didn't miss something. It gets old, and it gets old quick. So I mentioned a monster that pops up at the beginning of the level. Whatever becomes of him? Well, he disappears, and he is replaced by various enemies, and I use that term loosely. At first I didn't even realize they were bad. They are small, harmless-looking rats that run back and forth on the screen. Sometimes they'll throw in a scary unicycle or a parrot, but mostly it's the little rats. When you touch them, your scare meter, the red bar at the top of the screen, fills up rather quickly. If it fills up all the way, you lose one of your 3 lives. There are numerous issues with the enemies. First off, there is no audio associated with them. They make no sound. When you touch them, they make no sound, and neither do you. They do not interact with you or attack you in any way. They just walk back and forth. I didn't even realize my scare bar was filling up at the time. Just getting close can scare you.
Oh, God. Look at that.
Every now and then, the real monster will pop back up on the screen, and the same problems apply to him. There is no pop, or music change, or sinister laughter when he appears. There's nothing. He's just there. There's just silence. It becomes very noticeable. But you can attack the enemies. Well, sort of. On each level, there are a couple clues you pick up that are not clues, but rather something you can throw. It might be a rock or a can or some other random piece of junk. And actually hitting something with it, like a little rat, is nigh impossible. It's a joke. It's so bad, it makes me wonder if the developers even played the game. Most of the time, the best thing to do is just jump over them, which brings us to jumping. Jumping over the enemies is your best and most used technique, but when I say best, that means it's the best bad option of nothing but bad options. The enemies move fast, sometimes very fast, and Shaggy's jump is slow and imprecise. You will often jump or run jump over an enemy, and it will look successful. But with the poor hitbox detection, you actually just filled half your meter up. Mind you, there was no sound to any of this, just the background music. You might not have even noticed. It's very frustrating. Jumping is also used in some platforming. There is a small section in each episode that will have you jumping from platform to platform. Now, this part works okay. The collision of the platforms can be a little suspect. Don't try to land on the edge, as you'll most likely fall through. Aim for the center. There are also 2 mini-games that appear every now and then. A sandwich stacking game where Shag is throwing food out of a fridge and Scooby tries to catch it. And a whack-a-mole screen with monsters. Both are lame and quickly over and gain you nothing. And now let's talk about an area that I do like about the game, and that is the graphics. The graphics of the game are what initially caught my eye. The characters are large, colorful, and well drawn. Running, jumping, sniffing animations are all very nice. I also like that when a new area is opened up, all the gang members will walk to their new location on their own and take up their new spots. It's kind of neat. The backgrounds are for the most part very nice. Some episodes can get a little repetitive. For example, all the rooms on the pirate ship look the same, as a pirate ship. But overall, I had no real issues or complaints about the graphics. It seems to be where the developers spent most of their time and budget. Now let's talk about the sound. An area where Scooby Doo should have excelled, but the game whiffs. The music from the cartoon is iconic. If you've ever watched more than one episode, you know the tunes. The game starts out pretty good. There are 2 songs straight from the show that the Nintendo does a great job of recreating. And are perfect for walking around and looking for clues. But then there are other songs, and I'm looking at you, Funfair Level, that are not from the show and are downright bad. And then we get to the characters and other sound effects, and they are almost completely absent. There are one or two voice samples that are used every now and then, but it ain't enough. And as I've mentioned before, almost everything is completely silent. It's odd.
It's nice.
So I've mentioned some things that I don't like about this game. The throwing mechanic is one, the hitboxes on the enemies, the lack of audio. But there are other things about this game that I hate, and you need to know about them. So if you hit the left shoulder button, it brings up a map. You're presented with a scroll, and at first it looks very confusing. It shows a path, and you see icons that look familiar, like an ice cream truck that you just passed, but they don't appear to be laid out like you see them. You can go stand next to the ice cream truck and turn the map on, and your icon will not be anywhere near the ice cream truck on the map. It'll be off to the side. None of the characters' icons are ever placed in their actual location, but rather off to the side of the area. When you go to close the map, it's not the left shoulder again, it's now the start button. I don't know how many times I pressed the left shoulder and it didn't close it. Like, oh yeah, I've got to hit the start button to close the map, the shoulder button to open it. It's lame. Hey, let's talk about the intros, or the lack of intros. The intros for the 4 episodes are not good. Like I mentioned, there are no other characters ever shown. When the gang pulls off the monster mask, they reveal someone you have never heard of or seen before. You get the same van driving shot with different trees and a different building at the end. But on episode 4, Bradshaw Manor, you get a little more. Like they were planning on doing some nicer scenes, but just didn't have time. As for the difficulty of the game is not hard, at least not in a challenging way. The clues are right there in front of you. If you don't see them, just walk a few more feet. The rats and monsters will silently kill you many times, but once you know the order of picking up the clues, it's just a matter of walking and jumping over them. You can fly through each of the 4 episodes in 15 minutes or less once you've been through them. And once you do, there's no reason to ever do it again. In fact, one of the funniest things of the game is on the fair level. To travel between areas in the fair, there are tall gates that say, "More fun this way." I chuckled every time because there wasn't more fun that way, I promise you. Ignore them, because they're not accurate. So, I'm giving Scooby Doo Mystery for the SNES 2 out of a possible 5 trogs.